Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Electric Vision Entertainment, or E.V.E for short. I'm your host, Aleia, and once again, if it's your first time here, just a little about me. I'm a data scientist, roboticist, technologist, space enthusiast. I've also now dubbed myself chaos theorist, but basically overarchingly a scientist. I also am a student at Make School, and so they are the ones that help put the show on. So of course you would find them at the Twitch Make School channel, twitch.tv/make_school. And if you have been here before, or not, we're going to do some more cool techie stuff. So recently we've been doing a bit more kind of development type things, working on a portfolio, kind of setting up your environment. We haven't done as much coding in the past few weeks, so we are going to do some of that today. What we are going to do in the tech, we're going into the tech industry. With anything, there's always a need to practice. And for tech, it becomes really big because as you go into trying to apply for tech jobs, you'll have to do technical interviews. It's this big thing. It's a very important topic when going into coding jobs. And basically it's to see how well of a problem solver you are. To a degree, yes, to check your knowledge, but everyone doesn't know everything and no one can really know everything. So it's more so to see what your process is, what your mind, how your mind works of solving problems and how you can handle it. So that's what we're going to do. There are these coding websites. One is called Leet, the other is Exercism, and they're two of the ones that I use the most. And they basically just put out different problems for you to solve with code. Anywhere from something simple like to see if there's duplicate numbers in a list, or something as complex as write code to solve a Sudoku puzzle or something like that. And it all depends. So we're going to do that today. But to start, we previously last week we went over it a little bit. The contest is officially over for our snowman coding contest. And what we're going to do today is we're going to announce the winners. So we had 3 categories. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see exactly what I see, as well as see the different ones that won and kind of talk about the actual competition itself. So if you look at the screen, which I'm pretty sure is up at the moment. Cool. So what the contest basically was that I gave you all some starter code, and in doing so, I wanted to see what could be created from it. A lot of times in coding, there's always multiple ways to do one thing. So what I would want, we have 3 categories. We have the best snow person. So basically, who can get this snowman or using this empty space and make like a really cool actual model of a snowman. Then the second category is the best snowflake. So we have these animated snowflakes falling from the sky. We want to see what someone could do with it. Different sizes, different colors, different shapes, as well as the judge's choice. So it is which one did I like the most? And a social media bonus prize, which is based off of people who entered and also followed us on social media on the Make School Twitch, as well as our Instagram. So I'm going to be announcing those today. And once you win, or if you win, then you'll reach out to Jordan for your prizes, which will be some swag from Make School. So just to hop into that, we have Esther's. So Esther, you're the winner of our favorite snow person. I just think that yours is very cute. I love the eyes. It gives like that extra bit of life to it, as well as some of the other tools that you use to create the hat, the scarf. I found it adorable, and is just very clean and well thought out. So that would be the winner of our favorite snow person. Then the next winner is Chris, and he is the winner for our snowflake category. The reason being, we really like the customization you put into the motion effects. You know, the snow is kind of like how we had the snow set up initially, but adding in some of the effects of the clouds, how they look, the different coloration of them, the movement of them, it gives more to the landscape. And so because of that, you're the one who wins for our best snowflake. And then we have the judge's choice, which is my personal favorite, which is the competition for Harry Potter. The reason I picked this one for mine, partially because I love Harry Potter, so like the creativity points. And then we have multiple snowmen here. We got dialogue coming up, so that was something that I mentioned was possible, but I didn't actually showcase myself. So it also shows the person went and looked at the documentation and actually like integrated like different boxes, different it looks like even different type of text or text sizes, the split background color, which I actually just realized, and I'm not quite sure how they did that, so I'm even more curious because of that. So you would be the judge's choice winner. And then in our last category, of course, last but not least, we had the bonus prize, which was based off of our social media. So the winner for that one is also Chris. So you get double the swag. So if you won the competition, first and foremost, I want to thank you for entering it. Just taking the time out of your day to practice a little coding, have a little fun with technology. So I really appreciate you entering the contest. Anyone that did win the contest, you can always win the next one because there will be more. And so in order for you to get your prizes for the winners, you'll please reach out to Jordan on the Discord channel, and he will have you send in your email address, where that way he can send you all the details that you need to know in order to receive your swag. So with that being the case, that kind of wraps up this first coding competition. It was really fun. Like I said, there definitely will be other ones in the future. We'll see what the themes are, maybe a different language, maybe a different just theme in general. We'll kind of see how things go, but I think this one went well, and I'm very excited to see what other creations people come up with as we do these competitions. So to get into what we're talking about today. So as I mentioned before, there's a thing called LeetCode and Exercism. So LeetCode is here, and all of these are free tools. So anyone can sign up. Don't have to like be making crazy things. So LeetCode gives you like little small problems. So it'll ask you, you know, let's see if we can find something small. We're gonna do a small one. I have already a couple picked out that we're gonna work on. I think there's 3 of them, but we'll see how it goes based off time. So what it does is it gives you kind of questions to answer. Let's explore a little, see what we come up with. Cool. So you have these different ones to learn different concepts. We have arrays, linked lists, binary trees. So very from lower level to very high level concepts, as well as competitions that are run. I know even sites like Kaggle, which is more data science based, they do competitions as well, where you can go on and practice your skills, but also like, you know, compete with others for actual rewards. Let's click onto here, see if we have any. So this is more of a course. We can go to problems. Perfect. So here you have a bunch of problems. They give you the solution if you want to look. Difficulty level as well. So if, say, for instance, I click add 2 numbers. it gives you on the side a problem. Your whole goal is just to solve it with code. So in this case, if you had two empty linked lists with non-negative integers or just non-negative numbers, and they're stored in reverse, each contains your digit, add the two numbers, and return the sum as a linked list. So, for example, in this case, we have these numbers, and we want to add them up. We're not going to do this one, but just as an example. And then you can go over here on the side. You can use their development environment, pick your language, do it that way. I usually download it myself because I put them all together in this repository. Just as like a place for me to, just for my own organizational things. It makes, as a coder, the more organized you are, the better your life usually is. It's not always the case. And also organizing everything you need to do can be quite the hard task when you're a coder because there's so many facets and bits and pieces that are needed. But it does help. So for me, I have all of my Leet code ones in here, and I have official ones that I get from the site that I will then go later and maybe submit to them, see if I get feedback from them or from other people who are doing those, as well as practice ones that I just kind of like found randomly on the internet, but they're still considered like Leet code type problems. So we're gonna do one of, I think I have just one of those that we're gonna work on. And then as well, there's Exercism, which I actually prefer because it's a bit more, it has better use cases, I would say. So Leet code is more, let's just test your problem solving skills, but it doesn't really give you anything out. Whereas here, let's see if I can pull up some to show a good example. There's so many languages. I don't even know where Python is in here. We'll just say JavaScript because I can't seem to want to find Python today. So here you have different mentors where you can submit your code. Let's see. So the thing with Exercism, if you submit, there we go. You can submit the code just like you do for Leet code, but the difference here is there are mentors who will go behind you and check your work and give you feedback. So that is like one of the best ways to do it. Let's see if I can sign in so I can show you some of my actual work. Okay. So I'm on the Python track that I joined, and some practice. So you can click Hello World, which is one I've already done, which is why it's highlighted. But for example, here is your instructions, and it'll say, this is just the Hello World, get you started. The objectives, write a function that returns the string Hello World, run the test suite. So it gives you already all of the tests that you need in order to see if it works. So in this case, just check if it prints Hello World when it runs. And submit your solution. They'll come back later and they'll tell you if you're right or wrong, and like other ways you could have done it. I don't always submit mine because I know a lot of times, like it'll work, but and you'll notice when I do like the coding today, I usually do a lot of the brute force options. And it basically what that is I'm doing it in a way so that it works, but it's not like efficient. There's a better way, but I guess do it to the point where it works. And for stuff like this, it's not as crucial, but as you get into like higher level problems, doing the brute force way doesn't always work. But also, it's a good way to just get a good understanding of what you're looking for. For instance, I'll show one and it very clearly answers the problem. It's just not like pretty and eloquent and such, but you have to start somewhere. And if you're able to code the brute force basic way, then that allows you to be able to upgrade it into a more eloquent way, rather than spending so much time and energy trying to start off doing it the prettiest, fastest, cleanest way. So with that being said, I am going to pull up a Google Colab. I think we're going to do it on there. Actually, let me see if I can switch to VS Code. Hopefully VS Code is visible. It looks like it. Cool. So I'm gonna do it in VS Code. I have a file here. We're gonna make a new file in this folder. And the problem that we're gonna be solving, the first one, is going to be one from Exercism. So we're gonna do that first. I have 2 exercisms and 1 Leet code that we're gonna do. And the point of this is just to get in the habit of learning like how to dissect these problems, as well as kind of just seeing how they work. So I'm going ahead and let's save this. I always save first so that I can name it the way I want to name it, rather than like open a new file and set it up like that. It's a weird thing. But for me, we're gonna do that. So the code, let me pull up the instructions for us to look at. We are going to do one called Raindrops. And let me pull up the instructions for that. The beauty, the ups and the downsides of doing live coding sessions are the setup. Making things to show how things would actually be in real life, like in real time and everything. So versus, you know, things that are a little more set up and laid out, stuff like that. So for this one, here are the instructions. So for Raindrops, our task is to convert a number into a string that contains raindrop sounds corresponding to certain potential factors. A factor is a number that evenly divides into another number, leaving no remainder. The simplest way to test if one number is a factor of another is to use modulo. Modulo is like basically a way to divide a number, but it gives you the remainder rather than the whole version. So if I had like 3 divided by 2, well, that's not a good example. Let's say 7 divided by 2. If I used modulo, the answer I get would be 1, because it goes into 2 goes into 7 3 times with a remainder of 1. So only looking at the remainder of 1. And that way we know if like we do modulo and we get a 0, that it's an even, like a factor of it. It evenly goes into that number. So the rules of the raindrops are that if a given number has a factor of 3, you add plain to the result. If it's 5, you add plain. If it's 7, we put long. And if it does not have any one of those 3 as a factor, then the result should be the digits of the number. So just spit the number back out, just reject it. So examples, 27 or 28 as a 7 as a factor, but not 3 or 5. So you just get plong. 30 has 3 and 5, but not 7. So you pling plong. And 34 is none, so we just get 34. Let's see. Would Exercism be a good way for someone who's never coded in Python before to start? Would it be? I would say yes. I think it's a good way. It's I believe it in Exercism they have I don't remember if they still have it here. If not, they definitely have it on LeetCode where you can just actually study the language itself. What I would suggest in terms of like, if you've never coded that language before doing this, do something like Code Academy, which is here, because it'll teach you the actual language itself versus Exercism, which is more practicing the language, you know. It's just like English, or no, it's more like math. Before you really get into solving math problems, you have to understand the concepts of how it works. You have to understand what addition is, subtraction, positive and negative numbers, things like that, the structure and the basis of how it's run. But exercism is more of, now that I know these fundamentals, how can I use them to solve the problem? So I would go to like Code Academy and learn like what variables are for Python and how to do arithmetic in it, and you know how to set up functions and stuff like that. And then once you get kind of the basics for how it runs, then I will go to Exercism and actually use this to like practice applying it. Yeah, so that would be my suggestion for that question. So let's see. To go back. I realized that you couldn't really see that, but yeah, go to the Academy. We're not going to worry too much about exception messages in this case. It's good practice to do so. I usually focus more on, I just want to solve the problem. But I don't think for our purposes, for anything we do, we will need to handle any exceptions, which are basically like, if something crazy happens, this is what I need you to do. And then also we can run tests. I don't know if I have PyTest installed. If not, I'll install it real quick so you can see how that works. Mind you, I am on a different development computer right now than my usual one, so it might be even, you'll definitely see a bit of troubleshooting happen if I go to install this and then it doesn't work. So, but we can still run it, even if PyTest wants to be a little funny with us. So with that being said, we're going to start coding this up a little bit. So get another new file. We're doing raindrops. Okay. Let's exit out of that. Exit out of that. And I'm gonna pull up. I created, and I'll paste it in here. Oh, so being so funky. There we go. Okay. I created like a template for myself for when I do these type of problems. And the reason being, it's just so I can understand, like, I'm not just here solely to write the code and then just call it a day. I want to make sure that I understand how I should go about doing stuff like this. So I'm going to pull up and copy and paste it into the editor so you can see it in just a second. This will VS Code and put that in here. Cool. So what I have here is I basically will copy and paste the problem into this section, so I know exactly what it is. So I would take this and I put it in there. Oh, my power mode is still on. Lovely. So that way I can have just better access to know what exactly I need to do without having to constantly switch back and forth between tabs. Then if you scroll down, I usually have 4 to-dos down here. One of them is to restate the problem. And a lot of these are like problem-solving solutions you can use in coding, in science, and math, really in real life, to be honest, that they help get an understanding of what we're doing before we actually dive straight in. Another organizational type thing, you know. So feel free to drop in your comments what you use as like problem-solving strategies, because I'm always willing to learn more problem-solving strategies. So the first thing is to restate the problem. So if I were to restate this problem, how would I say this? I don't know. I would say maybe, and another way of saying restating the problem is, I kind of restate my problem, but it's more like pseudocode, which is I will say in English what I want to happen, and then I will later, Python is installed. I will say in English what I want the code to do, and then that way later I can just convert what I said in English to the actual coding language. It's kind of just like the middle step of solving the process without actually having to get like deep into the code. So I would say print out a string of drops based on the factor, uncertain. So this is how I would say it. Is print out a string of drops based on the factor of a certain number. That alone tells me this piece here, the factor, tells me my modulo, which looks like that percent sign, needs to be 0 if it's a factor. That's just like tells me that off the beginning. Certain number we know they're going to be up there, so I'm not going to put them all back. And a string of drops. So because I'm printing out a string of drops, this means I'm probably either going to return a string or a list, most likely. And then printing out, well, we'll print it. Simple enough. So then any questions that I have, you know, I don't think it said anything about negative numbers. I would say a question would be, what happens for negative numbers? I would also say fractions or fractions. Mind you, I would then assume that all edge cases, or let's say numbers who don't have that factor, just return themselves regardless. So even if it's like a whole number, a negative number, 0, which I think technically they count 0 as a positive number, that's a whole other conversation. Return. So we're just going to assume that any other weird numbers we get like that are also just going to return themselves in this case, because I don't think it gave any true clarification about something like that. I don't think I really have too many other questions or assumptions with this. We'll kind of see as we go, because I think this is a pretty straightforward one. Cool. So pseudocode, I kind of did a bit of the pseudocode before, but to go more in depth about how it would actually be. So I would say take a number would be the first thing. Take a number input. I'm going to assume, and that's another assumption, that we're user input number. So we take a number input. We are going to find we're going to check for if it's factored into any of those numbers. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. And then I'll say if not, return is self. If so, return accurate string. Now the thing about this last part, if it is a factor, return the accurate string. The thing we'll notice at the top in the example is, our first one, it's only divisible, or the only factor is 7. So we just get 1 plong. However, we notice with 30, because it's 3 and 5, it doesn't choose between the two, it gives both of them. So that means that we need something to keep track of what is being printed out. So we can say, if so, we can get the corresponding string and add to a list for the results. And then at the end, we return the result. So it's kind of the flow that we're going to go. I think that should work. That should work. We'll see. I've done this one before, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to do it straight away again. That is definitely the thing of code. It's like, no matter how many times you do it, you'll almost never do it like perfectly again. It just doesn't work that way. Partially because you're working on other things, switching different languages, partially because, you know, it's a problem. It's, if I had a Sudoku puzzle and I solved it, and then I erased the whole thing, and then I go back like even a week later, I'd have to redo all the calculations to solve it rather than just like plop the numbers back down. That's just how the human mind works. So right here, I have another checkpoint, which is set up test variables. So I don't know if I need any test variables for this. I can just say, we're going to put a user input. So we'll say, oh, the fact that they're changing colors when I type them means they're like keywords. So I have to pick different ones. So like, or are they? Yeah. So I believe in this case, just the regular stuff would be white. And that's the downside, I will say, about color themes, because I just picked this color theme. If you don't know your color themes, you probably have to go through and figure out which ones are, what the different colors represent, because you'll accidentally do something like n equals input enter number. So n is a keyword to do something else. It's already like assigned to something specifically, so that's why it turned red. I can't use that. So we're just going to say num in this case. Tell them to enter a number. Cool. So that just takes the input from the user, and I'll show you how that is run in a moment. And then now here's kind of my basis for how functions work. Usually, or at least so far, in the Leet code problems and the exercism problems I've done, I've only needed one function to do it. So I usually set it up like this. Def is how you define a function. This will be the name of the function. So we're going to call this raindrop. X, that's going to be our input. So we're just going to put num. And then we describe it. It means like triple brackets. These are called doc strings. This is where you can put like descriptions of things. So I can say exactly what my variables are, a description of what this function does. It's good practice for when you're building a really complex code bases so that you can go back and actually understand your own code, because I definitely had times where I've gone back and I was like, I have no idea what this is. So they're very useful. I'm not going to fill them out at the moment. Maybe as we go through it a bit more, so no, we're on time. So I do know that I need a list. Like I said, at some point, I need a list to return the result. So I'm going to go ahead and make that now. I'm going to say it's going to be my results. And since nothing's in there now, because nothing's happened, we're just going to set it as an empty list. And I'm going to add things to it as we go and then spit out whatever happens at the end. So I know that I need to take the number input. So I've done this. Let's see if I can do that check mark. No, I don't remember what it is. There's the key combination that'll give you a check mark. So we're going to then we're going to check if it's factored into any of this. So with me doing brute force, I'm about to do a bunch of if statements. I'm pretty sure you could probably do this with a loop, but right now I just want to make it work. And then later, that's when you go back and you clean it up and make things like actually work the way they need to. So I'm going to say if the number is 3 is 0. So the number we get, we're going to do the modulus on it for 3. And the double equal sign doesn't say make it equal. It says, is it equal? It's checking for if it's true or false. Is it this thing or not? Comparator, I believe is what they're called. So if it is, then what we're going to do is we're going to put, is it clean? Yes, 3 is clean. So we're going to put that into our list for later. So results plus equal. And the reason I'm doing plus equal and not like append, there is a way to add things into a list while appending. The reason I'm doing it this way is because our output looks like this. It's just strings combined with each other versus pling, plong, or something like that. So because it looks like this, I know that we're getting like a combined string rather than this list. And it may still, I might have to double check on that, but we'll see what happens. So I'm not sure how the result looked at the end of this when I did it last time. So that's for 3. And then we're going to do some more of those. Bow. And this is where like keyboard shortcuts come in handy. Because, boom. And that's the thing about coding is, I think we mentioned this last week, probably mentioned it many times throughout my show, other shows. As coders, you get lazy. We call it lazy, but technically it's kind of more like extremely efficient, where I'm not going to sit and type every single word to every single thing every time. If I know something's going to keep happening, for one, usually you write a loop. But I could probably do like a for loop or something. But also, if you have like the code before, just copy and paste and edit what you need to. So I definitely do that with my own code. I'll like get it and I'll, you know, I might have like a certain type of function that I've had work before. And I'll save that function by itself. And then that way later, if I need something like that again, it's just already right there in my toolbox rather than having to start over and make it all the way from scratch. So we have that, and then that is 3, 5, and 7, and then it's not. So if, let's see, results. So if nothing is in there by the end, so that means it's not a factor of 3, 5, or 7, and the result is still empty. I put this as a, that's why I was confused. Cool. Yeah, so I need this to be a string. That's what I was confusing myself when I went back up there. I was like, wait, but I just need result into a list. It needs to be a string for the way that this is set up. That's the beauty of coding, is finding your problems as you go. Hopefully finding them as you go and not when you get to the end and it doesn't work anymore. So then you would return that it did itself. Cool. So if there's nothing there, just give us back that same number as a string rather than as actual number. I think in both cases it should be fine, but for our purposes, we're going to do it that way. And then we return the results. Okay. So, like I said, it usually comes with tests, a test program. I'll see if I can get that connected as well. But what I want to try real quick is running it natively. I can get it open. Boom. So this is the terminal. You can launch this in VS Code. Honestly, I use this. Usually I would use my command line outside of VS Code, but when I'm doing like actual scripting or building stuff like this, it's easier just to have it here and just go from there. So I'm gonna write one more string in here. Raindrops. So I'm calling on the function and I'm going to give it, actually we're just gonna say raindrops. Let's see what happens. I think that should work. Cool. So we know at least we haven't gotten any errors yet. Nothing's broken. So we're going to throw in a number. Let's use one of their examples because we know that they're right because they gave it to us an example. So I will use their examples most of the time. So I know if I put in 28, I should get plong out of this. 28. No. Raindrops is not. find, because I put an S. So we'll fix that. So let's try writing it again. Oh, it's so hard to see. We'll slide this up. Boom. Okay. So we're missing an argument num in our function because I didn't give it a number. So here, num. So I have to pass that in, and the reason I have to pass that in, I'm not really going to go into like how to read stack traces, but basically it said that on this line I was missing num. And if you look at the function, it's because here I told it that in order to work, it has to start with something. I have to give it some sort of input. And I didn't do that at the bottom. So it didn't know what to do. So I set num up already as being this input. So it should, let's try again. 28. And no. Let's see what we got here. By 3. Let's see if this is what it is. Okay. So the reason being, first off, for the error was it was seeing it as a string. When you do an input, it thinks it's like a word. Even if you type in a number, it thinks it's a word. So by putting this int in front of it, we've said that we actually have a number instead of a word, so that it actually is working. It's not printing out anything because I haven't told it to. It technically is working. We didn't get any errors, but we're going to say print the answer. Answer is, that should be a string. Cool. Well, let's see if we get it out this time. Boom. All right, so we know 28 says pling. Let's look up here. It should be plong. 7 should be plong. That's why. Type those wrong. And so one more. So lots of testing here. I said there'd be a test function. I'll pull that up. Probably due to time, we'll go over how to do that. We may not go over some of the other. But we might do one more. Maybe go over a little over time today. Since now that we know how it works, we can just jump right into the next one. But we'll kind of roll with it and see. So 28 is plong. Let's see, 30. I put that in. I should get pling plong. Let's run it again. Pling play. Yep. That's my notes. So we got pling playing. And then if we run 34, 34, we get 34, which is what should happen. It spits the number back out. So we know this works. At which point usually you would save it and you can upload it to Exercism. So let me switch back to it so you can see the Exercism. Cool. So I came here. Here's Raindrops. And this is my code that I put from before. So I could have went and uploaded or just copied and pasted my code into here and submitted it. And then I don't think this one had got reviewed. It does say that I solved it, so it was correct. Let's see, I'll take this. I don't think this is gonna work because I don't have any of these imports set up. So we're not gonna do that at the moment. We'll try real quick. Do a little debugging, do a little troubleshooting, because I mean, that is how the software development process goes. So we're just gonna figure out some stuff real quick. So I'm going to make a new file. We'll call it raindrops test.py. Okay, I'm gonna put this all in here. Save that. And the thing about tests is you have to run them a certain way, like unit tests and whatnot. So I'm gonna try to install it. I was having issues installing things earlier on this computer because usually I do all of my like coding and development on my MacBook. And so switching to a PC has its ups and downs. We might do a separate show on like PC versus Mac because I know it's a big thing. But I personally find that PCs are better for like graphics type stuff, videos, audio, speed to an extent, but that just might be because my MacBook's RAM is getting pretty heavy. But just knowing how to convert between the two languages is really like the hard part. So I'm going to install UnitTest because I know I need it up here. And I don't think I have any. Pip3 install UnitTest. Will this work? No, I don't think I even have pip on here. PyTest, I think might be it. Cool. So right now it's just downloading a library that it needs in order to run these tests. So there's that. And then the second line of this test function I know from Raindrops is imports convert. So because of that, I'm gonna raindrops import, and I'm gonna call this, I'm gonna rename this to convert, the name of the function, because that's what it's gonna look for. It's gonna try to run this function, and if it's named wrong, then it's gonna error out immediately anyway. So convert, save that. And I think that should be everything, as long as PyTest works. Close this out the way. So I come down to my terminal. In order to run PyTest, you just say PyTest. Oh, what was that? Okay. PyTest, and then the name of the one you want to test. So raindrops is not it. Raindrops test. Well, let's see if it works. Maybe not. So I'm gonna just pop back over here, see if it tells us how to run it. To run the test, run that. Even though we renamed it. We're gonna try this one and see what happens. Well, it worked, but it also didn't work. All right, so I'm gonna show what this is. What's happening here? I know it's like a lot of stuff on the screen and a lot of colors. It's probably hard to test, so I'm try to get it as visible as possible. So basically, it's running the tests here. And the tests, to show those real quick, you know, it's trying to see if it's giving out what it should be. So how I did it manually, and I was like 28 and 30 and 34. This just does it all for me at once. So like it'll check if 1 actually spits out 1, if 3 actually spits out plain, 5 playing. Basically just a whole bunch of those, you know. 3,125 apparently should be playing. A 105 should be all 3. So it's going to just run a bunch of those for me, so I don't have to do it. And it's a good way of testing, like, you know, edge cases or like weird numbers. What happens if the user inputs a word instead of a number? Then what are we gonna do? So It's running the test. Well, actually, it's like it's not running because I have an error. So this doesn't want me to use, it's saying the error is reading from the console, basically. It doesn't want us to do it that way. It wants us to give it a number, I think. Yeah. So I think in order to do it the way that they want, well, let me put that back up. One second. Cool. Okay. It's saying not to use an input. So if I got rid of that line here, and then got rid of this because we don't really need it for our case because we already have things set up to test. Save this. And let's try running it again and see if we get an error. Nope. So yeah, that last error, looking at it up here, it's just saying stdin is like the standard input. It doesn't want us to read from the user. It's basically like, we'll do all of that for you. We'll give you all the numbers. Don't worry about that. So you don't need to have anything like that. So when I took that out, it's running all of these tests. That's what all these dots are. Every dot here is a test. If one of them failed, let's say, I don't know, convert 52 should be 60 or something. I don't know if this is going to work. I usually don't build tests. I have very strong feelings about test functions, if you know me. But this is wrong, this test. Because of that, you'll see all these other ones ran, and then this one failed. And so it'll show you like every single one that fails. And then it'll show you as well, like what happened. It's like 52 is not equal to 60. That makes sense. So if you did 52 and fix that and run it again, all tests pass. So it's a good way. I said I have strong feelings about the testing, but it's like a really good thing to do in order to make sure your code works. Test all sorts of exceptions, things that should be going right, wrong, and then just to save you the trouble. You know, if I submitted this code the way it was the first time to them, they may not have let it pass because it failed the test. Because it's not looking for that input, it doesn't need the print statement. So that's one way to do it. And then, like I said, using like Exercism, you can submit your code to them. And we'll go back to that screen really fast for you all. So you can come here, you can submit the answer. I'm in practice mode, so I'm not getting like mentorship right now. I think forget how to switch modes. But there's all sorts of ones here that you can do. So, you know, I did an easy one. It was like conditionals, integers, text format, simple. Versus, let's say I went to hard. This point of view one. I don't know what this is. This looks horrible. Making a graph. Let's find one that makes sense. Medium. Word search, I think was one that I had on my list that I was going to do, and then I just never did it. In this one, you get a word search of a square of letters, and you have to find specific words in them. It's a little more vague, but you have to literally just use this and find all the words that you can. So, like, I don't know. Let's see if I can find one. Maybe not. Cam is the only one that popped up in my mind. Yeah, this is so much harder to do, and it's not like in a box format, and it's just like letters on the screen. But basically, you would do it just like any other word search puzzle where you want to look up and down and vertically and see if diagonal, see if you can find like hidden words in there. So let's see if they have like a walkthrough. Oh, sorry, that's the installation. Yeah, so you do this in order to solve it, and it gives you command line arguments. So you basically type this into the terminal where I was doing like the commands, and you can download this. I wonder if it'll work real quick. Let's see, are we on time? Yeah, we're gonna run out of time. So let's see if I can switch to my VS Code and paste it in. See if that'll work. It will not because I haven't downloaded Exercism. But if you download Exercism to your computer, then you can type that in. It downloads the whole folder. I believe the folder has the README with the instructions, the blank Python or mostly blank Python file, so that you can just kind of jump in and get started. Kind of how I had the template of how the function should be set was basically that. The test program as a file already, and I think that's mostly it, other than some things that it has on ISIN for it to be run. Then you solve it, you save it, and you would get that line, and you would put this line in, and it would tell you, Exercism submit the name of the file, put that in, and then it would end up sending it once you have it downloaded and working. So because of time, we're not gonna go like through any of the other ones. There's two other ones. One was like Armstrong numbers, which basically is if you get like the word, if you get the number 72, and if you squared every number in it, so like 7 squared plus 2 squared, you add those together and it equals 72 again, then it's called an Armstrong number. So we might do that one next because I think like the idea of like cool numbers recreating themselves in weird ways is like just a cool thing to do. I don't know what the practical application of it would be. But who knows, maybe one of you know the answer to that question. So with that being said, so we're not going to go into any other ones today, but I will have this like coding type of session probably be a repeated thing that we may be doing on the channel, where whether it's Exercism, Leet code, I know HackerRank has them, Kaggle does them, or even just practice coding, where we just decide like, let's get this problem, let's talk it through, see if we can get it working, go through like troubleshooting, because we definitely had a few troubleshooting things we had to work through. And that way we can just like get practice in for coding, see kind of what the process is like to be able to have like the organization and just the mindset of how to work through problems like this. And then, get them up and running if we can. If we get them running early, maybe find the better solution to this. I would think, a for loop where it's checking through to see if these are all in it. Yeah, different sort of things. So that being said, I definitely invite everyone. I'm going to throw the links real fast in the chat for everyone. Or maybe not, because it doesn't want to load. But we have exercism.io, which is what we did today. There's leetcode.com, which, like I said, their problems are a little more robust. I think Exercism is more fun and just easy to use, in my personal opinion. And yeah, so that's that. Oh, beans. All right, so with that being said, and so, yes, with that being said, I think that'll wrap up our show today. Like I said, I wanted to do 3, but that's the thing about coding is it's just, even if you've done it before, you kind of have the mindset of like, oh, I can do it again real quick. And then you actually get into it and you're like, oh, this takes more time than I thought. So I was definitely was like, oh, these are all gonna be 15 minutes. Nope, 45 minutes. So we're gonna wrap up the show. Real quick, we are gonna play a keynote from the founder of Big School, one of the founders of Big School, Jeremy Rossman. We're gonna play a keynote right after this from him, and then I invite you all to stick around because 1 hour from now, Brian will be hosting Tech Topicals. So I definitely invite you to come join, watch his show. Definitely goes a lot more into like the world happenings in tech rather than the actual tech. So it's nice to get both sides of things. So with that being said, thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to seeing the type of things you all create as well as seeing you on the next show. So, bye.